Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I want to just begin by saying we are all here today because of the strength and the courage of these survivors of the St. Anne's Residential School. It's their courage and their commitment to fighting for justice that has driven this process, and their inspiration for everyone who's fighting for truth and reconciliation. The Commission, which was mandated by Parliament, showed us the way forward. It made it clear that we've got a duty to follow through on all the recommendations, including securing an apology for the Catholic Church's role in the residential school. And this is one of the past two reconciliation. Our goal is to move forward. Canada needs to come to terms with its past, and this is an important step to reconciliation. Nous sommes ici grâce au courage des milliers des survivants des pensionnats autochtones. Les excuses du pape étaient une recommandation de la Commission sur la vérité et la réconciliation. Les excuses sont tellement importantes. La Commission nous a montré une façon d'attendre la réconciliation. Les excuses sont nécessaires pour aider le Canada à prendre un pas de plus vers la réconciliation et pour aller de l'avant. I'm honored that our party stands in solidarity with the community, and I want to just acknowledge the great work of Charlie, Angus, and Romeo Saginash in supporting and championing the community and the survivors. So without further ado, again, I want to acknowledge this is all here. We're only here today because of the strength of survivors, and I'd like to now bring Charlie Angus forward.
Good morning. This is a historic day. It's a hopeful day. It's a happy day, where Canada comes to terms with its history by reaching out to Pope Francis, a man who has built a reputation around the world as a voice for justice and reconciliation. And we're calling on the Pope to walk with us on this road to reconciliation. And it's been a hard road, because what was done in the name of Canada and done in the name of the Church was a crime of international proportions, and we have to atone for it, and we have to come to terms with it. And there is no moving forward as a nation until we've done this, and we are calling on the Pope to work with us in respect to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission findings. We are here today with the survivors of St. Anne's who faced the horrific brutalities of the Church and continue to face the full weight of the legal system of the Government of Canada in defying their basic rights. And they are here proud, and they are unmoved, and justice will happen. And we're proud today because it's not just St. Anne's, it's for all the residential schools that happened across this country. But it's the survivors of St. Anne's who show us the way forward. And one of them said to me last night, "Do you think we came all this way to ask for money? We came here to hear 3 words." That's what we're asking for today. I'll turn it over to my colleague, Romeo Saginash, and I'm so proud to be with Georgina Jolibois, who's been such a powerful and fierce representative for the communities of northern Saskatchewan.
Miigwech, Charlie, je ne répéterai pas ce que Charlie vient de dire. Évidemment, c'est une motion que nous présentons pour débat aujourd'hui, un débat nécessaire et important pour qu'on puisse continuer dans ce processus de réconciliation au pays avec les peuples autochtones et en particulier les survivants des pensionnats. Ce que je trouve triste et inacceptable dans toute cette histoire, c'est que même après 40 ans d'être sorti du pensionnat, dans mon cas, ça fait à peu près 40 ans que je suis sorti du pensionnat, que je sois encore ici debout devant vous à demander des excuses à l'Église catholique et au pape. C'est ce qui m'attriste le plus dans tout ça. C'est une bataille en tant que survivant des pensionnats et en tant que parlementaire aujourd'hui ici. Vous vous imaginez que j'ai beaucoup sur les épaules au nom de tous les survivants du pays. Alors, dans ce sens-là, je ne participerai pas au débat, j'y serai présent, mais je ne participerai pas au débat. Comme j'ai dit l'autre jour, lorsqu'on demande à des survivants des pensionnats à raconter leur expérience et à raconter leur histoire, 10 ans de tristesse et de mauvais souvenirs dans mon cas, c'est les inviter à revivre leur traumatisme. Alors, je ne ferai pas ça aujourd'hui. Il suffit pour moi d'être présent avec tous les survivants qui sont ici et ceux qui nous appuient. Je pense que ça va être assez pour moi aujourd'hui. Donc, je vous remercie d'être ici.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Georgina Jollybois. I'm a member of Parliament for Daysnetha-Missinipi Churchill River riding in northern Saskatchewan. My riding represents some survivors of other residential schools, plus survivors of boarding school. That was in Isle of Cross and Timber Bay. Survivors who went to those two schools are currently seeking compensation or currently seeking help from the federal government and looking toward the church. As a practicing Catholic, and I am a Dene from northern Saskatchewan, I like to invite myself to, as well as my colleagues and the survivors. It would be an honor to have the Pope come to visit us here in Canada and to offer an apology to all the survivors and all the Indigenous people who have experienced tremendous, horrible lives because of the things that occurred. One thing I'd like to add before I finish is that in northern Saskatchewan, in my constituency, there are Indigenous people who have a great working relationship with the Catholic Church. Our bishop, diocese of Keewatin-Napa, he has been talking to us about reconciliation and doing what the Church can to improve the relationship in working with the Indigenous people. So with that, I want to take it further and ask the Pope to come and visit here in Canada. Thank you.
Angus and NDP. My name is Anna Betty Yachni Beneshkam. I'm the Deputy Grand Chief of Anishinaabe Nation. On behalf of Anishinaabe Nation, we acknowledge the survivors of St. Anne's and all survivors across Canada, those that are here with us, those that are out there in our communities, those that are struggling, and those who have passed on. I also acknowledge the sacred eagle staff that stands with us and all the sacred items that our people carry. And on behalf of Anishinaabe Nation, we call upon Pope Francis and the Catholic Church to take responsibility for their contribution to the genocide of our Indigenous people, for their contribution to the policies that contributed to the cultural genocide of our Indigenous people. They must take responsibility and acknowledge their contribution and come to Canada and be part of the reconciliation that is necessary and that our people are requesting. So on behalf of Anishinaabe Nation, I acknowledge again all the survivors and all those that have supported them. Thank you.
Wache, greetings. I would like to begin by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. My name is Evelyn Korkmas, and I am a residential school survivor. St. Anne's Residential School was located in an isolated community of Fort Albany, Ontario, better known to the locals as Bistabec, on the west coast of James Bay. It is good to hear about the motion in the House to request an official apology from the Pope for the residential school abuses that took place. This is an important issue for Indigenous peoples of Canada. The motion demonstrates Canada stands with the Indigenous Canadians in requesting an apology from the Pope on behalf of the Roman Catholic Church on the silent genocide done to this country's Indigenous people. This motion today is a good step forward to show an apology demonstrates that these institutes are truly remorseful for damage done to us as children. Otherwise, Canada's apology to the Indigenous peoples of Canada rings hollow and has no true meaning. I can honestly say an apology from the Pope would be meaningful and a show of remorse, and for the country I call my homeland to support and pass the motion in the House of Commons would be a true indication to move towards reconciliation. I can only speak for myself and not on behalf of others on what reconciliation means to me. 1. An apology from the Pope affirms that wrong was done to the residential school survivors by priests, bishops, and the Catholic brothers. I want the Catholic Church to show it's truly remorseful and ask for our forgiveness for the harms committed to us as innocent children. 2. I believe it would remove an enormous weight off many of the survivors' shoulders to know that the Pope believes their truths, as there is so much guilt and shame that a survivor carries throughout their lifetime. Despite the fact that we weren't responsible for physical and sexual abuses done, the psychological damage can stay with a person for their entire lifetime. And it continues to show up in the many challenges that an individual, families, and communities struggle with. 3. Without an apology, how can we believe that the Catholic Church is truly remorseful, especially if the Catholic Church's archives continue to hide the truth? Now, opening up the archives to me would be a movement towards reconciliation, allowing scholars, historians, and journalists to write a far truer history on residential schools in Canada. In closing, I would like to say I think this would be a big step forward towards reconciliation for the survivors, like myself, our grandchildren, and future generations, if Canada passes the motion to support the Indigenous people of Canada. Minguesh, and thank you.
Wachek msoe do temak kino akan tostoyek Community het me gesuiskantish na hasan maskantote. Good morning to everybody, for all the people that's listening. I came here being peaceful in a friendly way. My spiritual name is Kind-Hearted Equal Woman. This was the spirit name that was given to me when I turned my life around. After 40 years of my terrible, horrific done to me while I was at the St. Anne's Residential School. Beside me on my right is my granddaughter, Julia Hunter. She is attending at the Carleton University, and her parents live in Kingston. On my left is my grandson, Tristan LeBrun. He lives here in Ottawa, works for the U.S. Embassy. And I'm very proud to be with them. They're my rocks. The way I feel. I thought I was over with this pain that I'm carrying, but I can't help it. I can't help it the way I feel when I look at my brothers and sisters across the land. As an elder, it weighs me down to see all the Indigenous people, the way they go through every day in their lives. And I'm here begging the Holy Father, the Pope, to walk with us, into healing. That's the meaning of that truth and reconciliation. To me, that's how I believe it should be. Holy Father, the Pope, if you get my message, the real meaning that we all say every day, and when you celebrate your Holy Mass, you repeat that every time, Our Father. And when we say, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those, that's a very, very strong message for me. When you forgive your individual, it's the truth. And that's what we want us as Indigenous people, to give your apology to all of us all across the land. There were too many tragic accidents that happened during the time when we attended those Catholic schools. I'm not here to put down the Holy Father, but I ask him to walk and have sympathy to all Indigenous people that lived in Canada. We live in a very beautiful country. We thank the Creator every day for our land that we live on. Without the Creator's blessing, we will be nothing. The sun that comes out, that rises from the east, our brother, our grandfather, the sun, looking at us every second, every moment of our life. The same thing with our grandmother, the moon, at night. When we go to bed to say good night to the world, we take another journey, but we don't know what kind of journey we're going to meet at night. That's why it is very important to forgive others if somebody done wrong to us, and to forgive them. I had a great teacher, my parents. My parents used to tell us, don't go to bed without forgiving others. Don't go to bed when the sun goes down without saying, I forgive you. The great Father in heaven hears you when you say that, and then your journey will be at peace. And as soon as the morning comes, the first thing when you see, you say thank you to the Creator for giving you another day to enjoy. Do it. Let's do it for Him. when we walk. Everything that we look at, let's do it for him, because he's the one that gave us everything that we have in our lives. Before closing, again, I want to say thank you to Charlie, Angus, and all the people that arranged this for us, for all the Indigenous people. And I say thank you to the brother that brought that that staff. And I really appreciate that. And I want to thank to everybody, whoever back home that is listening. I started my healing journey about 20 years ago. I thought I could never get over, but time to time it still hurts. I know the money is never going to be able to heal the scars I have. But the thing that's going to ease my mind is the forgiveness from the church, the Catholic Church. What they did to us, what they did to Indigenous children since the school started. When they took the children away from the families, that was the hardest thing. It's just like pulling a baby from being fed from a mother's breast. That's how I look at it. And there are so many that never made it home. So many of them that never made it home. And there are so many people that have been abused sexually by brothers, sisters, and priests. And that's why we need an apology from the head master of the Catholic Church. And once again, Holy Father, the Pope, please listen to us as we asking you to do your apology to me.
Thank you very much. The survivors are going to be heading up into the gallery to be the witnesses to today's historic motion. We only have a couple minutes, very few short minutes, if there's any specific questions. Otherwise, maybe we can arrange time to speak with people later.
Pouvez nous expliquer exactement qu'est-ce que votre motion demande et à qui?
La motion invite le pape de participer avec le Parlement du Canada et les peuples du Canada dans cette rue de réconciliation. Le deuxième point, c'est nécessaire pour l'Église catholique de reconnaître leur obligation de payer l'indemnification pour les crimes dans les écoles résidentielles, parce que les écoles pensionnats, parce que les autres dénominations chrétiennes déjà fait l'excuse formelle, et aussi les autres dénominations chrétiennes ont payé leurs obligations. Et le troisième point, c'est nécessaire pour les églises catholiques et les, comme dit-on, les ordres des églises, de présenter les documents et les preuves concernant la vraie histoire des écoles pensionnats. C'est ça.
Est-ce que vous savez ce que les libéraux vont faire, ce que les conservateurs vont faire, ou est-ce que c'est encore...
Je pense que cette question, ce n'était pas une question partisane, parce qu'il était grâce à M. Premier ministre Stephen Harper que nous avons l'excuse formelle du Parlement. J'ai parlé avec Mme Bennett sur la position des libéraux et je pense que les libéraux vont appuyer cette motion-là. Je ne sais pas la position de M. Scheer.
Saganache, en tant que survivant, la semaine dernière, les représentants de l'Église catholique ont dit qu'ils n'excluaient pas que le pape présente des excuses dans une éventuelle visite. Est-ce que vous êtes encouragé par ça? Est-ce que ça...
J'espère sincèrement que ça va arriver. Tous les survivants des pensionnats aimeraient voir cette réalité, puisque ça nous permettrait de fermer le cercle. Toutes les autres églises ont déjà présenté leurs excuses et il ne manque que l'Église catholique. Et en ce sens-là, de façon générale, ce serait de reconnaître les torts que l'Église a fait envers des enfants. Ce sont des enfants qui ont subi tous ces torts et tous ces crimes qui ont été perpétrés non seulement par l'Église catholique, mais les autres également. Donc, dans ce sens-là, ça nous permettrait de boucler la boucle, en quelque sorte, et j'espère le voir. De mon vivant, en tout cas.
Vous dites une dernière, peut-être. Vous dites que vous n'allez pas participer au débat, mais même juste être présent puis entendre à nouveau toutes ces choses-là, est-ce que c'est vraiment nécessaire pour...
Ça va être difficile. Je vais être présent par solidarité avec mes collègues qui vont se lever sur cette motion. Ce sera difficile d'écouter ceux qui s'y opposent, comme la conférence de presse l'autre jour des évêques. Donc, comme je dis, ça va être très difficile pour moi. Ça a toujours été difficile de discuter de ces choses-là, mais j'y serai par solidarité envers mes collègues.